The BJP has shut down all speculation about Prime Minister Modi stepping aside or entering a different role by saying that Modi will be India's Prime Minister even in 2029. This after opposition barbs and speculation after Modi's visit to the RSS headquarters in Nagpur, his first since taking office in 2014. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. What are the big political takeaways? What should we understand and decode in that big important meeting when Prime Minister Modi traveled to Nagpur and met with Modi-Bhagwat at the RSS headquarters? Now, many have seen this as a sign that the RSS and the BJP have ironed out all of their minor or major differences, depending on your interpretation, differences and tensions that did manifest themselves in the Lok Sabha elections of June 2024, when the BJP slipped below a majority. Also, intriguingly, a senior BJP leader is now talking about the fight over the Aurangzeb tomb being an unnecessary and a non-issue. This despite the fact that Maharashtra's own chief minister was initially batting for this tomb to be an issue and said that he was open to having it removed in a lawful manner. The BJP today is in a very interesting and seemingly paradoxical position. On the one hand is the Prime Minister's outreach this Eid, the Sugata Modi program, with lakhs of Muslims, marking what many saw as a shift in political strategy. But on the other hand came very, very strict diktats in Uttar Pradesh in some districts by the police when it came to namaz on the streets. All of this led to further questions over whether Modi and Yogi Adityanath were on the same page when it came to their approach, whether the BJP's main challenge would come not from the opposition or the liberal left, but from the far right. All of these are interesting questions, but the big story is that meeting at the RSS headquarters in Nagpur and what that might mean for politics, for power dynamics within the Sangh Parivar, and what a fully reunited RSS BJP consolidation with all minor differences ironed out might mean for the opposition. This a day ahead of the Waqf bill being reintroduced in Parliament. I want to introduce our guests on the program today as we decode that visit, that meeting. Tavleen Singh, senior journalist, trenchant opinion maker and opinionated columnist and well-known author is with us. Good to see you, Tavleen. Also joining us is Rajat Sethi, political analyst. Good to see you, Rajat. Also joining us is senior journalist and author Saba Naqvi. Always a pleasure, Saba. And also joining us is author and senior journalist Sugata Srinivasaraju. I want to start actually by playing out very interestingly what Devendra Fadnavis said hours after this meeting. Mr. Fadnavis, the Maharashtra Chief Minister's remarks came after Sanjay Raut tried to poke the BJP a little bit by saying that Modi had gone to the RSS headquarters because he was planning to say Tata bye-bye. Take a look.
मोदीजींचा उत्तराधिकारी शोधण्याचं कुठलंही कारण नाही. मोदीजी आमचे नेते आहेत. अजून बरेच वर्ष मोदीजी काम करणार आहेत. आमचा सगळ्यांचा आग्रह आहे. आम्ही 2029 चे पंतप्रधान म्हणून मोदीजींकडेच बघतो आहे. पूर्ण देश बघतो आहे. त्यामुळे आता अशी चर्चा करणं योग्य होणार नाही. आणि भारतीय संस्कृतीमध्ये वडील जिवंत असताना मुलांचा विचार होत नाही, करायचाही नसतो. ही सगळी मुघली संस्कृती आहे की वडील जिवंत असताना मुलं अशा प्रकारचा विचार करतात. त्यामुळे आता कोणाचाही कुठेही उत्तराधिकारी निवडण्याचा वेळही आलेले नाही, तसा प्रश्नही नाही. आणि जोपर्यंत माझा विषय आहे, माझा त्याच्याशी संबंधही नाही.
Well, to summarize that, Maharashtra Chief Minister saying no need to talk about his successor. Mr. Modi will be the BJP's face and the Prime Minister in 2029. Modi isn't going anywhere, in short. I'll start with you, Tavleen Singh, if I may. As you watched what unfolded on Sunday, the first such visit by the Prime Minister to the RSS headquarters since 2014, when he first became Prime Minister, what went through your mind? What was your takeaway, Tavleen? Could we unmute Tavleen? I can't hear her. Yeah, go ahead, Tavleen.
Yeah, it was politically clearly to iron out the differences that have existed. that did exist in the Lok Sabha election. And these are not differences that can't be ironed out. What I found actually more interesting was his comment that the RSS has been the beacon of Indian civilization and culture. That I found really actually intriguing, because why did he feel the need to say that? I mean, the political stuff is pretty obvious. Devendra Fadnavis, last time, I mean, when somebody said that he was going to become, he was Modi's heir, had to defend him, had to deny it very vehemently, and he's doing the same now because it harmed him politically in Maharashtra. So that's not. But what is this new thing about RSS being the cultural and the beacon of light for the past 100 years, etc.? That I found actually very intriguing.
And when you say you found it intriguing, do you feel that the RSS now emerges as more powerful? I mean, clearly both the BJP and the RSS have ironed out, it seems, whatever differences they may have had in the Lok Sabha campaign. The RSS troopers have been fully behind the BJP in the assembly election since. And JP Nadda's famous claim that the party did not need the RSS has been belied more than once. The question is, do you believe that the RSS could now be even more dominant than before when it comes to policy making, policy suggestions? It's already been pretty influential. I mean, no other government of the BJP, no other leader of the BJP has done as much to further the RSS's core beliefs than the Modi government.
Yeah, no, I don't think that the RSS needs to become more powerful. It already is very powerful. It doesn't, I mean, there was talk at one point in 2014 and even in 2019 that the RSS needed Modi more than he needed the RSS and all that sort of. And there were differences between him and Mohan-Bhagwat. But I think that the RSS, if you're going to now introduce the RSS as the leading light for Indian cultural thing, we need to watch out for what's going to happen in universities and in schools. And, is the RSS version of Indian history, of Indian culture, now going to become the norm? That, I think, is very interesting.
So, Rajat, let me bring you in now. When you look back to Atal Bihari Vajpayee's time, and Mr. Vajpayee had also gone to meet with the RSS leadership in 2000, Vajpayee had a much more overtly vexed relationship with the RSS. The RSS exercised vetoes, for example, on ministers getting certain portfolios. We all remember Jaswant Singh, for example, and the finance ministry. And I remember still being a kind of youngish reporter when Vajpayee declared himself to be a Swayam Sevak, and it made so many headlines. Now Modi says the same and nobody even blinks. Is there a greater mainstreaming of the RSS role in politics, their influence over government, their influence over BJP, so that nobody quite needs to deny that anymore in the way that, with the kind of denials we saw in the Vajpayee era? Is this a kind of new reality that is now accepted as the new normal? What did you make of this visit, the significance of this visit? And it can't be called routine, because if it was routine, a meeting like this would have taken place in every term of Modi. It's taken 3 terms before Mr. Modi has gone.
See, I largely agree with you, but let me, build out a narrative what I sort of foresee as to why this meeting happened. See, in 1925, there were 2 ideological movements that started simultaneously. One was the communist movement. It also started in 1925, and look where it is today. Similarly, RSS was also founded in 1925, and it is celebrating its 100 years centennial year around the world.
Yeah.
Which social organization would you can barely count them on fingertips who have lasted this long? So I'm sure on multiple levels, organizational level, discipline level, with their core vision, core objectives, they've been doing something right. And I think, with time, things change. The character, the nature of RSS is continuously evolving. So is the polity of our country. What I personally feel is that, though Vajpayee, when he was the prime minister, he was still in that transition phase. We were, prior to Vajpayee, you can call that era as Nehruvian era. But after Prime Minister Modi stepped in 2014 in his office, thereafter a completely different polity, a different era, which you can call Modi consensus or whatever you want to label it as. But this is a different India altogether. It will not think twice when it comes to ideological issue. It would love to carry it on its sleeves and will be bold about it, brazen about it. That is the country which we are. We are fairly confident of what cultural values we stand for, what civilizational wrongs have been done to us. We are happy to go back to history, look at history with much more poignant lenses, and start recalling out and looking for some kind of closures which we were afraid of in the previous epochs. And I think this is where Prime Minister Modi, his visit, largely in tune with this 100-year celebration that RSS is kickstarting now, is in sync with that. A. B. Also, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji lived in a time when coalition politics and his core, political upbringing, so to say, were largely under the shadows of Nehruvian consensus or Nehruvian era. So he was still, trying to understand how to bring in the core agenda of RSS and keeping his coalition partners intact. So that was a much more complex generation that he was trying to lead. Also, the real problem right now is that most of the analysts today are still stuck in the 2000s. So every meeting that the BJP and RSS happens, you start drawing parallels from 2000s because kuch to masala niklega. Necessarily, I personally feel even in 2024, there could have been a degree of complacency, not any kind of a clash of ideas or clash of the two organizations coming together. This, I personally feel that is a wrong conclusion that you would want to draw out of 2024. Both the organizations are independent organizations. They have their own egos. Both organizations, any organizations for that matter, has their own character, own ego, own ways of doing things, and they need not meet. And this is why people say it's very easy to misunderstand RSS than to understand RSS. And I think putting all of these things together, I feel the Prime Minister Modi went there not to mend ties or not to look for a successor or anything of that sort. That would be sort of a lazy analysis onto the relationship that BJP and RSS has. He wants to go out, give a signal, not just to the Indians, but to the world that, see, I am a product of RSS and I proudly and boldly stand with the core ideals that RSS stands for, while RSS starts its next chapter as it steps into its 100th year. These are the broad takes. See.
Okay, so let me bring in Saba. Saba, I think there is some truth to the fact that the Sangh Parivar, as we reported on, and you have, I know, also spent a lifetime reporting on and writing on it, is a very different Sangh Parivar today. I would even go so far as to say that the RSS is possibly easier to get information out of than this BJP. I think RSS leaders will still meet you on background, still have a good, healthy argument with you. Whereas with the Modi Shah BJP, you literally have no way as a journalist of forecasting what might come next, including who might be the next BJP president. Do you think Rajat is right that actually we're trying to understand it through an old lens, and so much has changed that the old lens just doesn't make sense anymore? Saba, you're at mute on your end. Can you?
I do agree with Rajat. We, even the language that we use, they had differences, that there were these static things, RSS, BJP, and now are they together? It's all wrong. When did Narendra Modi first come in the public domain? He came to Delhi when reporters like me met him as the Sangathan Mantri, in charge of the liaison between Bharatiya Janata Party and RSS. That he was from Gujarat. That he was linked to a faction in Gujarat. Anyway, then he goes to Gujarat as the chief minister, chosen, and then he has a public career there, and then he becomes Prime Minister of India, and everything has changed. Look, it is the 100th anniversary of the RSS, and there is on every front the approach, ideological approach. Narendra Modi is the product of the RSS. Even Vajpayee, we all like to present him as a liberal, and he was a very gifted parliamentarian, which none of the current lot are. Vajpayee was a genuinely good parliamentarian because he grew up in an adversarial house with performing very well as a Janasangh MP. So he had relations across the board, but whenever his coalition government, when he would have a problem with the RSS, then he would go back and forth, and he even wrote articles like "The Sangh is my soul" and all that. I don't know if you remember all that, but since it was my job to do daily coverage in those days, I remember all that. So Narendra Modi is the RSS. Within that place, he has navigated his space as a genuine mass leader, as somebody who
if that's the case, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but if that's the case, why did Mr. Nadda make the statement that he did? And do you think it was complacency, as Rajat suggests? Of course, he was talking about a kind of mutual overall complacency, but how do we read Nadda's statement?
What went on is actually a course correction, because what we were doing at that point, the cult of the leader had become so big that a section of the BJP and the television anchors had built it so big that it's just a formality, 400 par, all of this. Everybody started to believe that. And even the RSS guys, they sat home. And it is difficult to get any information out of the central leadership. When you go to the districts, you can walk into the BJP office. I did that in UP. I wrote about it. Nobody was doing anything. They were sitting back, because ye to jeet rahe hai na 400 par. And many of them were annoyed over not being consulted for the candidate. That happened in Maharashtra also, I'm told. I can tell you exact places where I went to, because they have 4 offices in Uttar Pradesh, the BJP has, where they were all sitting there watching on their screens and not doing very much. So there was a course correction. The cult of the personality still is perpetuated. However, the BJP is technically in a coalition era. But so this course correction, and then the RSS showed its importance in the cadre, which also went and fought this narrow contest in Haryana, the kind of outreach that they did, and then they did that in Maharashtra. Of course, there's a lot of money also which the BJP RSS ecosystem has, but we are talking about the largest cadre organization in the world. So I think the cult of personality, when you have media people just saying, oh, because of Modi, 400 par, that was an error for them. They paid the price for that. And RSS is shown. But it is I agree with Rajat, it is the 100th anniversary. And I want to make one crucial point. Just as Donald Trump has very little to do with the founding, what they call the founding fathers in the US, the Bharatiya Janata Party and the RSS was not part of the national movement. The Bharatiya Janata Party was only founded in 1980. The RSS was not part of the freedom movement. But so they're creating their own national memories and because what Modi does speak of is national service. So there is a break from the past. There is going to be this thing. So whether it's going to be about looking at history and finding Aurangzeb, I don't know all that details, what exactly is planned.
Since you mentioned
Donald Trump has nothing to do with those who founded America, what is happening today in the US, and just as the Bharatiya Janata Party and the RSS do not have anything to do with the kind of constitution we got. I want to put this very clearly there.
Okay, I'm sure our panelists will respond to what you've said. Rajat, give me a second. Since Saba mentioned Aurangzeb, something very interesting is happening also with this, right? We had the Maharashtra Chief Minister take on this issue. We had tensions in Nagpur. Now you have Bhayaji Joshi, a very significant leader of the RSS, come out and say, this is not an issue. ये हम क्या बात कर रहे हैं? This is not an issue. So what is actually going on here, where sometimes the BJP or some sections of the BJP are sounding more strident than many sections of the RSS? This is something very interesting to explore. And I want to just play out this statement, Sugata, sorry, before I come to you, on the Aurangzeb tomb controversy. Take a look.
ऐसा है कि उनकी वहाँ मृत्यु हुई, उनकी कब्र वहाँ बनी हुई है, जिसको श्रद्धा है वो जाता है। अब श्रद्धा किसको है किसको नहीं वो तो मैं नहीं जानता हूँ, और इसलिए जो है वो है। हमारे यहाँ की परंपरा में मृत्यु के बाद हम उसकी ज़्यादा चिंता नहीं करते।
मृत्यु के बाद हम ज्यादा चिंता नहीं करते, जो है जिसकी श्रद्धा है वो जाएंगे। And in a separate comment he actually said he finds the controversy unnecessary. He died here, so his tomb is here. Whoever wants to go will go. हमारी कल्चर में कोई चला जाए उसके बारे में हम ज्यादा बात नहीं करते हैं। Sugata, what's going on here? I am trying to read, and maybe my eyes, as Rajat said, are old eyes, and I have an old way of looking at this, but I'm trying in my old way to understand this. There is the Sugate Modi outreach program. There is the rather sort of harsh comments by the UP police during Eid, which caused perhaps for the first time 2 allies of the BJP to say we disagree. Chirag Paswan and Jayant Chaudhary say we don't agree with this. And then there is the RSS coming out and saying that what is this controversy? Isko chhod do. Isko chhod do abhi. We are not interested in discussing this. What's going on? What's going on?
Barkha, I think it's very, very important to remember that the RSS is not a monolith. I don't think it's a flat, uniform organization across. There is RSS and there is RSS, and there is also classic double speak. You just played a clip from Bhayaji Joshi's thing, on Aurangzeb, but there's a further comment to that. He also attributes the whole thing to the magnanimity of the Hindu culture to accommodate somebody who's dead. And then he also goes ahead and says that Shivaji built a tomb for a Adil Shahi king. And therefore
correct.
it's all fine. We don't need to sort of make much out of it. But then there is also a Devendra Fadnavis who says it's a ASI monument and therefore I'm duty bound to protect it, but I'm not morally sort of trying to do anything about it or comment about it. So there is the RSS and there is the RSS, and RSS is not a monolith. And taking from there, coming to Modi's visit to Nagpur, I have a slightly different reading, Barkha. I think I heard him speak there, and if you just look at his itinerary, Modi was not making it an exclusive visit to an RSS, Smriti Nandan thing. He was not going to the headquarters of the RSS. He was going to a memorial. I think that's a very, very important thing. He was also laying the foundation stone for eye hospital there. And more importantly, he also went to Ambedkar's Parinirvan kind of site. So I feel that, Modi, there are two things happening. Modi is trying to draw a new line. Modi is the new center of Indian politics. There is a right of center, there's a left of center, there is extreme right and all that. But Modi is trying to be the new center of Indian politics. If you heard his speech carefully, Barkha, what he attributed, he never sort of got emotional saying that I was also a Swayam Sevak, may Guruji say, "E sika, wo sika." No, nothing like that. All that he said was that the motto of service that the RSS had put into him, and he linked it up to the foreign policy of his government. And he said, we serve everybody in the world. So Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and all that kind of a Vishwaguru thing, his entire focus is on trying to create a universal presence for himself.
But
So
I take your point. Actually, sorry, I'm interrupting you just with a follow-up. I take your point that it wasn't exclusively on the RSS and that Ambedkar tribute is very important. It's to be read together.
It's a balance. Yeah.
It's a balancing. That's why I said it has to be read together. But this idea of Modi being the new center in Indian politics is an interesting one. And that ties into my question, right? There are, just like the RSS is not a monolith, the BJP looked for a while like a monolith. The BJP seemed as if it was very much Modi's BJP, and I still think it is. But there is a Yogi Adityanath, perhaps the only other BJP leader who can be mentioned as doing things his own way. And much will depend now on what happens in 2027. But even this sort of gap between the Sugata, I don't know if Rajat will see it as that, but the gap between, or the seeming paradox between the Sugata Modi outreach and the namaz on the streets orders, which led to two allies objecting. I mean, what's going on there according to you, Sugata?
No, I think he's basically trying to play it very well. The opponent is also within the BJP, the ruler is also within the BJP. Everybody is within the BJP. See, the Congress is nowhere there. So the opposition is also inside. So Modi is playing a very, very interesting game, and he's put himself firmly in the middle. And there is a Yogi Adityanath, but then you have to, if you look at what happened in 2024, Saba and others would sort of may have looked at it a little differently. But I look at it as 240 seats is 240 seats attributable to Modi. It is not. See, somebody may want to look at it as a BJP game, trying to deny Modi a majority, a clear majority. But then 240 seats is entirely on Modi's personality. So that is also, you can read it any which way. So
yeah,
it's a fascinating kind of landscape that has developed.
It is fascinating. It is fascinating, and there are no easy reads because let's face it, most of us are on the outside of it. Sorry, I wanted to go to Rajat. You have a line.
One last point.
Yes.
Rajat mentioned about the 100 years of the RSS. See, now Modi having gone there now, so we don't know whether he's going to go back again to Nagpur to celebrate the 100 years thing. This may be a kind of concession. I look at it as a kind of concession that he has given to the RSS, and he may not be there for the main event at all.
Yeah. Now, here's my question.
That's something that I...
Yeah. Now, everybody's mentioned this sort of cult of personality, and Rajat Sugata has this interesting point that the resistance is also within the BJP and the leader is also within the BJP because the opposition is in the opposition effectively. But, a new book on Hedgewar, the founder of the RSS, by Sachin Nanda, and I had interviewed the author. One of the things he said was that Hedgewar, he said it in the context of the Indian National Congress. Why did Hedgewar actually fall out with the Congress? And he said he found it too dominated by one man, Jawaharlal Nehru. For that time, he found it too personality-centric. And Hedgewar as a thinker was always against the cult of personality. Now, we hear again and again, Rajat, in the context of Modi-RSS dynamics, that the RSS was not very comfortable with this cult of Modi. And today, it is a powerful Modi, but it is a contained Modi, in which it is a contained Modi and the RSS has a role. The RSS has made itself heard. Do you agree with that reading, or you don't really agree with that reading?
I mean, so it's super complex. It's not like RSS would wish a contained Modi. A strong Modi delivering on the core ideas that RSS has stood for. He's been meeting all of those core objectives. And I think, in fact, it is time for RSS to reimagine what should be its core agenda, core objectives over the next set of decades. Because for several decades, they've been fighting for certain things which have now been met. Those goals have been met. So a reimagination of sort has to happen. A. B, I also feel that, see, this BJP question that you brought out, like, is it trying to be everything to everybody? I think in the BJP, I'm not talking about the leaders, I'm talking about the rank and file. So the sense that I am getting is that there is a degree of unease. While there is a certain set of the rank and file, those typical Twitter activists, etc., they are frustrated with this balancing that is happening. They're not happy, say, with the Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta trying to, reach out to all communities. They're not happy with the Sugata Modi. And they are trying to say that this is not what we stood for. While there is an equally big section within the BJP, which says that, see, our focus is economic development and Modi ji is delivering all of that. And we should not fall into these cracks because this is going to further pull us down. So this intermix is happening, and I think the principal reason as to why this is happening is because the BJP has been in power for so long now, 10 years, 11 years now, and BJP has become a huge tent. It has brought in people from all colors and caste, community. Everybody is now in this one common tent. Now, when the family size grows big, and when you have a very big joint family, people are going to crib.
LK Advani would have called it the Congressification of the BJP.
100%. See, this is why I'm saying now Prime Minister Modi is also finding it hard as to which way should the balance tilt, or should it be absolutely balanced. And I think these are some of the churnings that are happening in this new BJP, which wasn't the case at any time in its historical evolution. And I think these are the internal contradictions which will play out more and more. And also, this Aurangzeb issue, if you were to, if I were to put in my thoughts, there will be people. See, it's a crowded BJP right now. There will be people on the lower set of hierarchy who would want to pierce and rise up very quickly. And the easiest way is to actually fall for these things where they can draw the crowds out and leave a mark, leave a presence in an otherwise overly crowded party. And I think this is why it happens that you will see these random stray statements from the leadership in the rank and file who are trying to grow up in the ladder, but not being approved by the top leaders, either of the RSS or the BJP. So this is a problem of plenty, not a problem of scarcity or a problem of ideology. This is
fair enough. But it's a very interesting, Tavleen, I'm coming right to you. There's a very interesting argument there in Rajat that, who does the BJP want to be is a question it now suddenly has to answer. And in Vajpayee's time, there was more of a excuse or a reason to not be fully right of center because the numbers did not allow for that, and Vajpayee could have always said that. But today, when you juxtapose the Sugata Modi outreach with the namaz on the street diktats in certain districts of Uttar Pradesh, today when you juxtapose the fact that on the one hand you have Jayant Chaudhary and Chirag Paswan actually for the first time publicly expressing disagreement with the Modi policy, and you have the Waqf bill being reintroduced introduced tomorrow, and all eyes are on what Nitish Kumar is going to do. You have Kapil Mishra, BJP leader, today being ordered to face an FIR by the Delhi High Court for his alleged role in the Delhi riots. You have the Supreme Court asking for compensation to be paid for the demolition of what the Supreme Court has called the illegal demolitions in Prayagraj. All I'm saying is there is a pull and push. There is a certain kind of pull and push, and the BJP is having to define itself today in the middle of this pull and push, which it hasn't had to do. And its fiercest criticism, as Rajat pointed out, is actually coming from its own far-right, to use a cliche, its own far-right cadre. Tavleen.
I don't see this pull and push. I see really, Modi trying the outreach to the Muslims now. Modi sees himself as a world statesman, as a leader that has to be seen as generous to minorities, etc. Because no leader in the world can be openly, except maybe Trump, can be openly against a minority, right? And Modi doesn't want to be seen as that kind of, he's very conscious of his image on the international stage. And with all that's going on in the world, and with a very big shortage of eminent leaders, I see him as positioning himself there. But the fundamental stuff that they stand for is articulated every day by Yogi Adityanath, the RSS, by lesser, people in the party. There's been no change. There's no pull and push. Even the personality cult, it hasn't lessened.
But how do you reconcile the Sugata Modi with the Namaz on the Street orders, Chirag Paswan and Jayant Chaudhary speaking out, which they haven't done in all these months, right? A certain amount of pushback on the original draft of the Waqf bill, a certain amount of quiet pushback from the RSS. There is something going on here.
Do you know that what I've been seeing actually for quite a long time is that the RSS for a while has been actually more generous to the Muslims than the BJP has. And, I know people who have been, Muslim leaders who, when they were in trouble, when they felt that the Muslims were really being attacked, etc., went to Modi-Bhagwat and sought a meeting with him, and they discussed their problems, they discussed the whole issues with him rather than with the BJP ministers. So, basically it's, I think really the same as always. It's just that you've got one lot. Now, you've got Yogi Adityanath. The RSS actually may well have changed its character in the past few years, because you remember Modi-Bhagwat's statement about the
shivling. You can't go looking for a shivling under every mosque.
Exactly. Have you ever heard anyone from the BJP talk like that? No. They're all going, no, find every. Yogi Adityanath has said that in what's that place where the riot was in UP, Sambhal, they're going to find every shrine that has been built on a Hindu mosque. On a Hindu temple.
So if the RSS has become more generous to Muslims than the BJP, what could be the reason for that? Briefly, and I want Saba and Sugata and Rajat to come in on this argument. What could be the reason for that? Tavleen?
Oh, I don't know. I honestly don't understand. But I think that they felt maybe that it had shifted too far to an anti-Muslim position. Do you know, all that, we don't want to go into the campaign, the Prime Minister's own campaign during the Lok Sabha, the Mangal Sutras and the buffaloes and all that sort of business. And I think that maybe the RSS realized, the RSS is generally keen on India being together, not broken up again. I think that the RSS is fundamentally keen on that. That's their idea of nationalism. That's why they're against discrimination on caste. And I think that they saw that it had gone too far on the anti-Muslim thing.
Yeah, Saba, do you agree? Yeah, sorry, Saba? Saba, unmute yourself. Yeah.
I think the RSS's main driver is anti-Muslim, number one. But having said that, I think Rajat gave a clue, though I may interpret it, about the hotheads who raise certain issues. It is managing the mob, not because you feel some love for Muslims. It is you also have to appear to be a coherent place. Maharashtra is the most important industrial center. Tamil Nadu also is huge, which is why they're withstanding certain things that the RSS vision demands. So anyway, I don't think so at all. I think all of this is pretty meaningless, that you're meeting a handful of people. Within the Muslim community, there are people who have to protect whatever assets they have. Some of their shrines, some of them, so they'll go running, which is fine. Everybody's a free person. These are just symbolic things, that is being done. But the real, the discrimination in jobs, employment, people don't get, people are facing it at every level. But forget that. The point is, that I don't think so. I think without minorities, if you read Hegdewar, if you read Savarkar, the whole thing is about being a Hindu Rashtra. Ultimately, we can't do it constitutionally as yet. And as Sugata pointed out, the Prime Minister did go to the grave of, he went to the Ambedkar place also. I'm not sure what exactly he went to, but he went where Ambedkar, a symbolic place associated with Ambedkar, which had completely missed me. But because I just read in the newspapers the main headlines what Modi had done, I disagree with that interpretation. I think society, they are in power.
I just want to read out that he went to the Diksha Bhumi. No.
Yeah. It is
Saba,
about
hang on.
managing.
Saba, hang on. I just want to say that he went to the Diksha Bhumi in Nagpur to pay his tribute to Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Now, please do carry on.
Yeah. So, but so it is about managing a mob. Sometimes the mob is useful. You send people who in front of Muslim shrines. You need that. You don't actually do anything about it. You don't take administrative decisions not to root it, if that is what gives you delight. But this idea, but we are living in a neighborhood. Look what's happening in our neighborhood. Which country is close to us now? There are there are great consequences of this. So I don't think it's so simple that Modi is a world
but those
statesman.
countries. Yeah. 1 minute. Those countries have not fallen.
Muslim countries.
I am saying. I know. I'm just saying that the tensions with Sri Lanka. 1 minute. I'm just asking a question. The tensions with Sri Lanka and Bangladesh have nothing to do with Hindutva politics. They are to do with internal churn. They are to do with internal churn within Bangladesh and Sri Lanka.
We are in India with our neighborhood getting closer to China.
Okay.
That is a fact.
Yes.
We are in our neighbors all getting close to China. Let's understand that. A few things. The US is collapsing these days. So we are living in a changing world. I cannot predict which direction it will go in. But I will say one thing. The driving force is Hindutva. RSS is not developing some love for Muslims. The RSS has an idea of you don't want to create complete mayhem.
You need stability, you need for economic progress, for social progress, and that is what's driving them. Sugata, Srinivasaraju.
Modi's world image, Modi's national image comes from being the Hindu Hriday Samrat.
So these are completely differing perspectives between Tavleen, Rajat, and Saba. Sugata, let's bring you in now. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Barkha, I mean, this being generous towards the Muslim, Mohan Bhagwat or a lot of people were mentioned and quoted. See, now we have to realize that RSS is not a fringe player or an outlier, which it was, say, 20 years ago or 25 years ago, when they had to make a lot of sound to grab attention. So now they are the dispensers of, they're the rulers now. So when you are in the ruling, possession, or when you are ruling the country, I think it's a kind of patronage that you extend. So it's a kind of patronage that they're extending to Muslims. And look at what they're doing carefully. The Sugata Modi thing that you mentioned, or the poor Muslim woman for whom they made a legislation earlier. See, they are looking at the Muslim community and trying to split that community in the middle, or in three portions. I mean, looking at poor women,
on
poor
caste,
Muslims,
actually
looking at women,
on caste and gender.
looking at
on caste and gender. Yes,
absolutely. So I don't think it's just a philanthropic game or a kind of patronage game alone. It is also a very clever strategy. And the other point that other thing that we need to remember is, Barkha, see, there was a kind of 2024, Congress got 99 seats. Right. And so what do you do next to stop the resurgence of the Congress party? Because Congress has embraced the Dalit Muslim kind of combination. So you have to wean away a certain section, say 5% or 10% of the Muslim vote, to see a drop in the Congress numbers. So you're also, working on a strategy to ensure that the Congress resurgence does not firm up. It sort of goes down after this. So I
let's
think there are a lot of things at play.
Yeah, let's in our last comments talk then a little bit about the allies. Saba, I'll start with you. There was an expectation from those who don't like this government that that Chandrababu Naidu, Nitish Kumar would play their part in ensuring that this remained a coalition government as opposed to a BJP government, right? Not and in terms of agenda, that hasn't quite happened. Naidu and Nitish have pretty much, even on the Waqf bill, gone ahead. We'll see what happens tomorrow in Parliament. Seem to have gone ahead with the BJP's politics on this. Yes, there have been some pushback on the namaz issue from two ministers, young ministers in the government. But, I think we're back to a very dominant Modi government.
I agree.
It doesn't feel at all like what it
Yeah.
may have felt to some in June
Yes.
2024.
So I agree with you, Barkha, because the two allies on which the numbers are, one of them is trying to build a city for a capital, right? He's come out of this. I'm talking about Chandrababu Naidu, who
Yeah.
had refused to join the Vajpayee government internally. Meanwhile, the state has been split. He's now sitting there. He's trying to get a capital because Hyderabad is sitting in Telangana. So all of this. So it's not the same story. And they will just be maneuvering. They're not going to overtly. And Nitish Kumar is a figure because of certain reasons. He's in decline. But the BJP also needs him to be a sort of face, because Bihar, at this point, one still can't see single party rule for the Bharatiya Janata Party in Bihar without the caste props that they would require over there. But they are the driving force. They are providing the funds. They are providing the resources. When we talk of hegemony, we don't just mean political numbers. We also mean material resources. So it's all gone. So the Bharatiya Janata Party can actually meet the material aspirations of a TDP. So I agree with you. It is not a coalition like the coalitions some of us have covered in the past. It is still a very much a BJP dominant thing. The other thing to mention is also the fear of cases. If you join the BJP, this goes across the spectrum. The fear of criminal cases. Now, if you look at the history of Andhra Pradesh, Jagan Reddy and Chandrababu Naidu, one or the other, there is a lot of enmity between that. So I'm just pointing out. certain things.
Okay,
That
so you
is-
think the allies are going to remain muted for the most part? They're going to remain muted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sugata, the role of the allies?
Barkha, see, both Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish is completely on the decline. He doesn't know what he's speaking most of the time. And Chandrababu Naidu is, looking to transfer power to his son. So they're not the figures that they were in the 90s. So that's point number one. And then the second thing is also they're reading the mood of the public. See, assume that they sort of play tough with Modi and there is a collapse of the government at some point. And if you go to elections, Modi is likely to come back with a much bigger, comfortable number. They'll play the victimhood card. So, they will be allowing a greater polarization if they pull Modi down. So they would rather sort of take the funds that they're getting, build their own legacies, and transfer their legacies safely. And they'll all wait for a conducive time and moment when Modi is not looking so formidable. So I don't think that is anywhere in sight at this point of time.
So Rajat, let's ask the question from the other side. Is there anything that the Modi government has to be concerned about at this point? Tariffs are coming. The tariff war is going to unfold. It's going to have, depending on your point of view, some impact on the economy. The economy always matters. What do you think the government's challenges or biggest challenge or biggest concern politically or economically might be at this point?
See, I think by 2029, AI and other technological tsunamis that are coming our way are going to definitely have a decisive impact on our economy. Trump or no Trump, trade war or no trade war is certainly an issue right now. What I hear is that the talks that were happening did not materialize between India and the US, and there might be reciprocal tariffs being announced tomorrow. So we are entering into economic uncertainty and quite grave. The way we were pulling our people from poverty, into the lower middle class and lower middle class into the upper middle class bracket, that wave will have serious challenges going forward. So I think Prime Minister Modi needs enough policy elbow room to be able to mitigate all of these things, and he does not want any kind of distraction whatsoever. And this is where the challenge will come in from. Now, how does the opposition react? Right now, opposition is bereft of any halo, any kind of a leadership. There is bankruptcy of ideas. And if that continues, I think Prime Minister Modi will be able to feel more confident that he can think and tinker with a few ideas. He's already coming up with some fantastic ideas like this deep tech fund of 1 lakh crore rupees. So he's pressing the pedal on all of these things before it gets too late. But I believe as a country, we have to hope and pray that he doesn't have much politically to get distracted about, and he can run smoothly, save our country from these big, enormous impact forces that are going to shape things in the future.
I mean, I completely agree that we might well be entering a phase of economic uncertainty. And for that, if no other reason, you need social stability, you need political stability. Tavleen, last thoughts?
Isn't saying, as Saba interpreted it, that the RSS has given up on its hatred of Muslims, or that Hindutva isn't their creed. But I think that they sensed that it was going too far, and that they needed, it's not the mob they need to control. They need to control the BJP ministers and chief ministers who've been talking very recklessly. So that's what I saw. But I think that Modi is stronger now. A year ago, he seemed to actually have lost his mojo. Sorry to steal the name of your show, but he's got it back. He's very much the boss. Everyone is playing by his rules on the team.
Yeah, I think that's a great line to end with. Modi has got his mojo back. It also helps me reinforce our own brand. But I think we could agree on that at the moment, Modi is back. His mojo is rising again, to borrow from the popular song that we all heard in college. And the opposition, I would agree, right now doesn't seem to have any visible counter strategy. Modi's challenges are going to come from the economy. And I would argue, from within his own base, some of which is push, that's the push and pull. The push and pull is actually within, I think, as Rajat Sethi pointed out. Leaving it there. Thank you, Tavleen, Rajat, Sugata, and Saba. Thank you, Namaskar, and to our audience, thank you, and see you soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.